Hey everyone, it's Jacqueline for Pixie Dust PhD. Today's video is going to be a little different than normal. I know I personally have so many questions about Disney travel agents, but I really haven't been able to find a ton of detailed information online. So rather than me synthesizing and delivering information to you, today we're going to go straight to the source. I've got a very special guest who happens to be a friend and a Disney travel agent who's joining us today to answer all of my questions, so stay tuned. So welcome everyone. We have my friend here, Kamila. She's also a Disney enthusiast and Disney travel agent. So before we get started, Kamila, can you let everyone know how they can get in touch with you through the internets?
Yes. So the best way to reach me is at my email, which is also my name for this call. So Kamila at vacationeer.com is the best way to reach me. If you're just interested in, I don't know, fun Disney takes, I am also somewhat active on Twitter. So my username there is Disney Itinerary. And I love meeting other people that like to go to Disney and just chatting and having fun.
And I'll be sure to add Kamila's information in the description below if you want to reference that at any point later. So before we get into Disney travel agent questions, I know I have so many. I was wondering if you could just let people know sort of your Disney origin story. Like, how did you fall in love with Disney and the parks, and so much
Yeah.
so that you're a travel agent now?
Yeah, well, I will definitely say it started thanks to my parents who forced us to go to Disney when we were, my sister and I, they forced us to go when we were younger. And the interesting thing is, I can remember very clearly. There were two main trips we took when I was a kid with my parents to Disney World. And I remember the first one we loved. The second one I absolutely hated. And I think it had mostly to do with it was hot, the lines were long. I was a little bit older than the first time I went. So I just kind of was struggling with that second time we went. And it's hard when you go the first time, you have this amazing time, and then you go back and it doesn't feel quite as amazing. The interesting thing too about when I was growing up is, so my dad is from Southern California, and he is like a true Southern California kid, like went to USC, like truly lived in LA. And but he where he grew up, he also lived like 15 minutes down the street from Disneyland. And it's interesting because we really didn't go to Disneyland very much at all. We really only went to Disney World as a kid. So it's just like looking back, I'm like, we used to live 20 minutes from Disneyland, which is actually my favorite park. And we almost never went there, but we would go to Disney World. It felt like every few years.
Hmm.
So it was interesting. So I went to Disney as a kid. I didn't go like while I was in college at all. So it felt like there was this little break of maybe like, I don't know, I'm going to say 10 years. I don't know if that's true, but it felt like about 10 years where I didn't go to Disney, didn't think about Disney. Then I finished with all of my schooling and I go out into the real world. And I think at that point, that's when I kind of started. I started going to see like Disney movies. And this was when Disney started doing their live action remakes. And I think the first one was Cinderella. And I remember seeing that in the theater with a good friend of mine who was also like a Disney fan. And I just loved it. And so in a weird way, the movies got me thinking about going to Disney World again, and now I'm out of school. I've got like actual money. I'm not like a starving college student. And I was ready for a vacation at that point. And so what actually happened is I took my first trip back to Disney World for my birthday. And I want to say it was like a milestone birthday. Maybe I was turning 25 or something like that, like a little bit. And it was just me and my sister. And it was my first time going like without my parents. And I just remember it being an amazing vacation. First of all, nobody was there. So you had the parks to yourself. Felt like everything was a walk on, which I do not remember from previous times. And so I think it was just one of those things where that trip was the other thing that happened on that trip. So it was my birthday, and we had called the Disney, like, the line that you can call that you're not working with the travel agent, but you can call and book. So we had decided to book that way versus doing it online or something else. So I remember my sister and I called in, we let them know, like, they're like, oh, are you celebrating anything special? And I was like, yeah, it's my birthday. And also like our first time going back in a long time. So fast forward to check-in day after that. So my sister and I lived in different places. I lived in Arizona, she lived in Philadelphia. So I got there first. So I get picked up by the Magical Express, get dropped off. And this was like back when Disney used to do like the welcome parties at the resort. So there's like these people like, well, it was just me getting off the bus, by the way. Other people were going to another resort. So I'm like, you're all here for me. So it's just going well. So I go through that, feel great. It feels good to A, be on vacation, B, not be working, and then C, like just be at Disney again. I'm just excited. I go to check in, and this is like back in the days when you still checked in at the front desk when you got there, because now you don't do that. Crazy how things change. But what was so awesome is I get to the front desk and they're like, oh, you're checking in. And they're like, oh, I see you're celebrating your birthday. They're like, well, we've actually upgraded you to the presidential suite for the entire week. And I'm just like, what? And here's the thing, I have no idea what that means, right? So I'm like, okay, this is exciting. Like we got a better room than we think we did, but I have no idea what this room looks like. And I don't know what that means really. And I'm by myself. So I like find the room. And if anybody has ever stayed at a Disney resort, it's not the easiest to find your room. Like I swear they need someone to like walk you to your room, because that's how massive some of these resorts are. But I did
droids
find it
to take you.
Yes. Oh, that would be perfect, actually. So I open the door and I'm just in shock. Literally, there's a living room, there's a kitchen, there's a dining room, there's what would have been our normal hotel room to the right, and then to the left, there's like my master bedroom. I claimed it immediately because it's my birthday. And I was just shocked because I was like, there's two of us. Like, and they just free upgrade for the entire week. So I think that helped a lot with my Disney obsession. But yeah, just that first trip back, it was awesome. And then from there, it was just kind of, I just kept wanting to go. And I feel like the more you go, the more you want to go. And so eventually I became a pass holder for both Disneyland and Disney World. And so that when you have a pass, you feel like you definitely need to go all the time. And when you're going all the time, you're paying attention to all the seasonal changes, the new food items, the merch. So it really just becomes this, like they figure out how to get you deeper and deeper into the Disney obsession. And that was me, the classic case.
That's awesome. And so you mentioned that Disneyland is your favorite park. So Disneyland proper, not DCA, right?
Well, so I would say the two combined, because if I ever go, I always get the type of ticket that allows me to go to both. To me, it would feel weird to like only be able to go to Disneyland and not run over to DCA and hop on, one of those rides. But yeah, I will say, and it actually is a more recent change, but probably in the last 2 years, Disneyland has become what feels like my home park, despite the fact that I spent most of my childhood going to Disney World. So it's a weird thing, but I really have come to love Disneyland.
No, that's awesome. And do you have a favorite ride or a favorite restaurant or food item you want to share?
So I will say, and you can only find, well, you can find these at Disney World, I know, but I love that you can get these in the parks at Disneyland. The Mickey beignets that you can get in New Orleans Square area, my absolute favorite. I love to grab those, and those are seasonal as well. So they have the classic ones, but they always have a specialty one. And I love the sour cherry. So the Mickey beignet, and I love to like grab that and then hop on the Disneyland Resort Railroad, which goes all around the park, which theirs is still open. Sorry, Disney World. So that's probably my favorite, and then favorite treat, and then favorite ride. I really love the Incredicoaster over at Disney California Adventure. That ride, if you like, because I like thrill rides. I feel like I should say Space Mountain. So Space Mountain, the Disneyland version, it's probably a tie between those two, because I truly love those two rides.
That's awesome. Okay, great. So wow, your Disney obsession goes deep.
It does.
I think that's perfect though for a Disney travel agent. I would be suspicious if you were like, "Oh, everything's like fine." Like
yeah, it's all right. It's all right. You're going to spend this money, but it's all right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I have quite a lot of questions about the whole Disney travel agent world, and I think I'm a pretty thorough researcher, but it's really hard to find information about this, I think, unless you become a travel agent. So thank you so much for being willing to talk about this. I think it feels like a shrouded secret. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. But so the first one, I guess, is can you really just give a brief overview of like what it means to be a Disney travel agent? Because you guys aren't employed by Disney. It's a separate situation, correct?
That's right. That's exactly right. So travel agents work for travel agencies. And these travel agencies are authorized and accredited with the Walt Disney Corporation. So we have our own phone lines when we call in. We have to give our travel agency number, but we are absolutely a separate entity. And so the way it works, if you want to become a travel agent, at least what I did, I literally Googled different travel agencies, and most of them have a page that says, we're hiring or work with us. And so pretty much the way it works, you apply with that travel agency. Um, with mine, so I work for the Vacationeer. There was an interview process. It felt like one of those interviews where they just want to make sure you understand what the expectations are, how it works, what makes their firm different. And I will say there are quite a few differences between different agencies or different travel agents. What some people do for their clients versus what others will or won't do can be pretty broad. So you'll typically find an agency. You do have to go through training, and that training is put on through Disney's. Agencies may also have their own separate training, but it's kind of the first step: get hired with the travel agency. Step 2, go through training to be able to actually essentially sell Disney products and services. And those products and services are essentially packages, whether it be room and ticket, whether it be room only, ticket only, and all the different add-ons. And the key for travel agents is typically we're selling something that's commissionable. And so not everything is commissionable. Some of the things that I'll book for clients are not, but they're kind of part of the overall package. But typically commissionable things include hotels, tickets, packages. When we had dining plans were commissionable. Now I will note, not the reservation, but actual dining plans. But I still book dining reservations for my clients.
Okay. And so you mentioned that there's this accreditation process. So it sounds like Disney has accreditation for both the travel agency and then for the travel agents via the
Right.
training period, right?
That's right.
And then, so are there travel agents that do Disney trips that aren't accredited? Or if I'm Googling looking for a travel agent, although I highly suggest everyone watching this just use you, are you going to run into someone that's maybe not accredited? Is that a concern?
You could, and I will say there's different levels also. So sometimes in the travel agent world, and I don't know exactly what they're called, but you'll hear like double platinum, diamond status. Like there's kind of like different tiers, and mostly it's based on your sales. And I don't know if it's for the year or altogether, but I kind of think it's for the year. And so there are different levels. For the most part, any travel agency that you Google, the biggest thing I would look for is, are they using the word authorized Disney travel agent? Because that means they have an actual relationship with Disney. Disney has their what we call IATA, which I don't remember what that stands for, but basically it's a number that I have to dial in every time I want to speak to someone, and it allows them to know, oh, she's actually a travel agent. It grants you certain access to certain sites that you need, even outside of Disney, for things you may want to book for your clients. So, yes, I would say what I really look for is the words authorized, but pretty much anyone that you Google that you see, that's going to come up is probably has a true relationship with Disney.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thanks. So I have seen that it doesn't cost vacationers anymore to use a travel agent than if they were to book it themselves. So how does that work? Because you are making commission, but the commission's not coming from me, I guess.
That's right. And this is a huge thing that is actually really important for people to understand, is that because I think, and I would think this if I hadn't become a travel agent, I think most people assume that you're paying a fee to be able to work with the travel agent. But at least in the world of theme parks, and this is true for, whether I'm booking Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, whatever it may be, you're not paying anything to work with me. Anything outside of what you would have paid already. So whether you go and book a trip online or whether you book a trip through me, the prices should be the same. And what I usually will say is you actually probably are going to pay less by working with me, because I know all the current offers that Disney is offering. When a new offer pops up, I'll know about it, because, you know, literally that's the world that we live in. So I can know, oh, this person is already booked for these dates, but now she's eligible for this offer. Let me go ahead and apply that to her package and get, save her some money. So the way then that we do get paid is, instead what Disney does is they give our agency 10% of what we book. So if you come to me and you're like, I want to stay at the Grand Floridian for these dates, I'm going to literally go on the website, the same website really that you can access. I have a slightly different view, but it's the exact same pricing that you would see if you booked it yourself. And I'm going to pull that pricing down. I'm going to send it to you. And if you say, okay, this looks great, let's book it, I'm going to book it for you. And then after you complete your trip, Disney's going to send the travel agency 10% of your total package amount. So if it was $3,000, they'll send 10% of that to the agency. And then from there, the agency will send me, and different agencies differ on this, but I would say the average is around 8%, 7 to 8% of that 10% that I booked. So
basically, my money is the same no matter what.
Mhm.
Does Disney keep all of it, or does some of it trickle down to travel agents like yourself?
So some of it will trickle down to travel agents like myself. And the key here is, you and I could work together, for example, but I would not get paid anything until, one, you actually book the trip through me. So not if you book it yourself, but if you actually book it through me. And then two, if you actually complete your trip. So that's why for a lot of people in the industry, the recent closures were so tough, because that's, all those months of trips that people had booked that were in the pipeline that, got canceled. And so they never got paid for.
Yeah, that is rough. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. So I guess, can you walk me through what it would be like if I sent you an email and was like, hey, I'm interested in Walt Disney World? What happens from there? Do we get on the phone and chat? Do you help me pick stuff and all of that?
Yeah. And so this is what I will say, where it can vary a lot by travel agent, and it really depends on how that travel agent gets their clients. So because of some partnerships that I've been able to put together for my agency, I get leads that come in through the web. So if someone goes to our travel agency's website, or if someone goes to, there's a popular news site, WGW News Today, that I also work with. So if someone goes to either of those places and they basically fill out like a contact form saying, thinking about going to Disney, can you send me some more information? That will come to me. And then typically what I'll do, I'll get the email usually pretty quickly within you submitting that contact form. And usually what I'll do, and this is a recent change, but I'll actually text you based on the phone number that you left. If you left one, most people do. I'll text you and I'll say, hey, thanks for getting in touch. I'm an authorized Disney travel agent. Is now a good time? And how do you prefer to communicate? Would you like to get on the phone? Would you like to chat through text? Would you like to do email? And I will tell you, most people are like, yeah, let's text. And so it's kind of funny. I guess with the way technology and communications has gone. But so I would say for most people, that's how it works. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised, really don't give me much information. So they'll literally say, I want to go to Disney for my honeymoon. And that's it. And it's hard to know sometimes, like, is this a good lead? Like, how seriously should I take this? But sometimes it's like a really good lead. And, but it's just like, people will sometimes share very little, and then you kind of have some back and forth. You just want to get basic details. When do you want to go? How long do you want to be there for? Do you have any preferences for the resort? And the interesting thing is, I think the person that works with a travel agent, or that even thinks about it, these are people who, they want to go to Disney, and that's pretty much all they know. And so that's where becoming a travel agent, or being a travel agent, can be a little bit tough, because you truly are, for many of these people, planning their trip. and you don't have all the details. Oftentimes they don't tell you how much money they want to spend. They don't tell you, they don't know how many parks they want to visit, how long they want to be there for. They don't even know when they want to go, Jacqueline. I wish I was kidding when I said this, but they're like, we're thinking about February or March. And I'm like, yes, but when?
Yes, but please pick days.
Right. And so as a travel agent, what you get very good at doing is kind of reading between the lines and interpreting what would work well. And so sometimes, like when I get the type of lead where they're like, we think we want to go February or March, then that's when you use your experience and you say, okay, well, if you're flexible, February is better than March because March is spring break. It's more expensive. There's more people. And beginning of February is better than later February, because in normal times, end of February is when you tend to see all those like sports and cheerleading competitions, which also leads to crowds. And beginning of February is cheaper. So that's when you start to kind of say, okay, so you said you want to do 4 parks. So you kind of just literally plan out their trip for them. And I would say you'd be surprised. Like, I feel like because you and I are planners, it's weird to know that this is how many people, want their trips to be planned. But I think many people who reach out to a travel agent, they're like, just get me to Disney.
That stresses me
Truly.
out so much hearing that.
Honestly, me too. I'm like, what do you mean? But I think that's what's like, especially as Disney enthusiasts, like there's so many things that we know that we forget that the average person doesn't at all.
It is
like
a lot of work, a lot of knowledge.
It is. And I that's why I would say to almost anyone, like there's a reason why almost anyone, even myself, like who goes so often, could work with the Disney travel agent, why it would make sense.
That's really interesting. People come to you with a pretty vague request and you basically mold their trip into what you think would work best for them.
Literally. There is a client that I'm working with right now. She's so much fun. So she's got 2 little girls. I think they're like 8 and 10, and it's their first time ever going to Disney. And she works, and she's a busy woman. And I am planning every single aspect of they're going to be there the week of Thanksgiving. I am planning every single aspect of their trip, including dining, including full day itineraries. And so sometimes that's just what you need. And I remember the first time I got on the phone after I had booked her dining reservations, and I was so nervous because I was like, I was just in my mind, I was like doing the tallying of like these really nice restaurants. I had her at everything good. We got Topolino's, like just everything good. She wanted lots of character meals for her girls. So we did that. We did pretty much all of them.
Comes at a price though.
Right. And that's what in my mind, I was like, I'm nervous. Like, is she going to be like, why did you plan this all out for me? And she was like, no, this is all good. And then it was funny because at the end she was like, so what are we doing on this day? And I was like you just, sometimes you truly are planning every aspect of these trips.
It sounds fun. It sounds stressful and fun, I think is what I'll say.
It's definitely, it can be a lot more than I think initially I would have guessed.
So I'm sure this varies a lot for individual agents and the various agencies, but for you, how many clients are you normally working with at a time? Like, it seems like a lot to juggle.
It is. I will tell you it is, because especially the way that I get clients where it's so many people are seeing these lead forms and they're filling them out and they come in. I would say, and so the way I do it, I have clients who have trips booked right now, which that's just started to kind of really get going again. Like people are ready to travel for good, bad, or indifferent. They are wanting to book trips into next year. And so I have booked clients, and right now of those, I've got 5. Which feels pretty good because what's happening right now, at least what I'm noticing trend wise, is people are getting in touch and they want to go on a trip within the next 2 months.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's people who are wanting to go quickly, like they're just ready to get out, I guess. So I've got 5 that are like actually booked, and it ranges from, I would say, middle of November, their trips all the way to end of next year. Mm-hmm. So it's a range. And then I would say in terms of clients or leads that I'm actively working, what I would consider good leads, where they're being responsive, they're reading my emails, they're just kind of taking some time to think about it. I probably got 20 of those. And I would say every day, I would say every other day, I probably get at least 1 to 2 leads every other day, which can be a lot. And then like cold leads that just kind of like either from the beginning, they never really went anywhere. I probably got 16 of those kind of currently, but I kind of keep those emails. And if I ever like send out a newsletter or just some basic info about like a special offer, I'll include everyone. But the thing that's tough about leads, because 1 to 2 every other day, when this is, you know, and this isn't the only thing I do, but for travel agents where there are plenty where this is their full-time job, I could see it being tough. But I will say, when you get these leads, not only is it kind of the initial consultation, whether it's by phone, text, or email, understanding more about like what they want to do and how they want to do it, but then from there, what we do is we take that information, and there's a special agent for a special Disney website for travel agents. And I'll go there, I'll pull the pricing, I put it into these nice quote forms that kind of lays out all the details. And then I send that over. And I would say, you know, the easy ones are the people who are like, I want to go Art of Animation these days and I want to do 5-day tickets. But that's rare that you get that. And even when you get that, sometimes you pull the pricing for Art of Animation and you're like, you know, Caribbean Beach is cheaper, so I'm going to put this quote sheet together for you for Caribbean Beach also and send you both. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to go with the more affordable option. Who wouldn't? Also, the benefit of working with a travel agent is you can come to me and say, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And I can be like, yeah, but this is better for what you want to do. And, you know, they appreciate that. So it really becomes a lot of work, because I probably will spend at least an hour on a regular quote sheet. But sometimes you get those clients who want to do something very specific. Like I had these sisters, this was a couple of weeks ago, they wanted a balcony. Like didn't care where they stayed, but it had to have a balcony. Well, our travel agent website doesn't really break down the rooms the way that it does sometimes if you call a hotel directly or if you book through that hotel directly.
Disney
Especially
Vacation Club, they all have balconies.
Right? Well, but they're also more expensive. And so, you know what I mean? And so like there's so many variables sometimes that you literally can sometimes spend hours looking for this specific room that your party is looking for. And they probably won't even book with you. They'll just take the information and go book it themselves now, which, you know, sometimes I'll know, like, that's fine. You can book that yourself. Here's some info. Call me if you want help with tickets. So you just kind of have to get good at knowing, kind of feeling out what type of client you're working with, and really how much work you want to put into what they're looking for. Because sometimes, like, especially if people are looking to book off Disney resorts, I can absolutely book non-Disney resorts for people, but there are pros and cons to doing it. So it's just, you know, sometimes you have to just think about what's really the best for this person that I'm working with.
Wow. Okay. So you're juggling a lot, because yeah, like you said, this isn't your only job. For you specifically, I'm sure, like you said, for some people it is their full-time gig, but right. Dang, good for you. Things that I could never do.
The funny thing is I feel like when I got into this, like, because I work like a very corporate job by day. And so I wanted something creative and fun and happy like Disney, because I work in finance and it's stressful and intense and, you know, it's interesting, but I wanted something fun. Like I wanted to be part of what they call like the fun economy. And so I kind of saw this as a way to do that. And it is 9 times out of 10, but every now and then, like you do run into things where it's just like, I don't even know where to start for this.
Okay, so you touched on this a little bit earlier where you said you were booking dining reservations for folks. So I guess if I'm working with you booking a vacation, who is doing the actual bookings? It sounds like you are able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the thing about my firm in particular is we're a boutique firm where we really try to do all of the heavy lifting of booking and planning a trip to Disney World, which includes booking advanced dining reservations, booking fast passes when we have them, helping with itineraries, and absolutely not every travel agency does this. And I will say, one of the biggest reasons I became a travel agent is because I had worked with travel agents in the past, because I used to do a lot of Run Disney type of things. And anyone who's ever done Run Disney knows sometimes the best way to get tickets to Run Disney is to go through a travel agent. And so I know what it's like to work with a travel agent and to be like, hey, I'd like to include a spa day in my package. I'd like to do this. And they don't even respond to those, but they'll let you know when it's time for you to pay. And so I think I had such horrible experiences with travel agents in the past, one in particular, it wasn't so many, that it inspired me to kind of be a travel agent who could really help people navigate Disney World because it is massive. And so I absolutely, when I'm working with clients, I try to go beyond just room and tickets, but also how do we make this a really special trip for you? And so for some people, that's advanced dining reservations. I do try to encourage all of my clients to have at least one. If they have kids, I always say, like, let's find some character experience that we can do for you. And I will say, pro tip to anyone watching this, if you have an Epcot day, I like Garden Grill for a character experience, especially because Epcot for little kids just doesn't offer as much. So when you throw a character dining, that's a way to like make it special. So I try to think about those kinds of things for all of my clients. Fast passes we book when those are up and running. And then if they have special requests, like let's say I was working with me back when I wanted a spa day, I can help you with that too. It's not commissionable, but I'm more than happy to help. And this is where you use your knowledge of Disney to really help people, you know, find the magic.
So how does that work? Do I give you my Disney Experience login so you can book things for me?
Yeah, that's a great question. And currently that is how it works. There used to be a few more tools to help with some of that, but right now, yes, you would give me your login information and I literally go in, I set you and your party up with your resort confirmation. I get all of the profiles added and connected for you. I'll book dining, I'll book fast passes, but yes, I'll do it all through my Disney Experience.
Good to know. Okay. So I'm a planner. I think we have established that. I like to figure things out on my own, for the most part. But I think it's obvious there's a lot of value to using a Disney travel agent. But the other thing about Disney is sometimes if you are a planner, you're booking things crazy far in advance, right?
Mhm.
So let's say I have already booked a trip. Can I transfer that reservation to a travel agent? Does it become commissionable for you then, or no?
You can, I think there's like a 30-day period where as long as it hasn't been longer than 30 days since you've booked the trip, you can transfer it over to me. And I think the reason why Disney allows for it is because of the people who will reach out, take the information, book it themselves, and then I'll reach out and be like, hey, what are you thinking about this information I sent you? And then they're like, oh, I already booked it. I think it's those types of scenarios that type of transfer exists for, but absolutely, maybe you've done the work of booking the hotel, booking the tickets, but you don't want to do the fast pass stuff or the advanced dining. So yeah, there's a period of 30 days. I think there's a form that has to be filled out to do it, but it can be done.
Okay, that's good to know. For me, I think it's more like I feel confident enough to handle the booking, but when it comes
Mhm.
to as time ticks on, it would be nice to have that second set of eyes for if discounts are released or big news
Right,
happens or,
right.
newsletters going out, stuff like that. That sounds really useful. So that's good to know. Basically, you can book it on your own and transfer it to a travel agent if you do it fast.
You can, that's right.
Then are there parameters, I guess, to either transferring to a travel agent or just booking directly with you in terms of is there a minimum number of nights or a minimum dollar spend, all that stuff?
That's a great question. And the thing I will say is the real answer is no. The only reason I put like a little bit of an asterisk there is sometimes the type of package that you're wanting to book. So, for example, if you're wanting to take advantage of a specific type of offer, sometimes that requires like a room and ticket minimum night stay. You see this a lot with like Run Disney packages. Traditionally, though, no. So there are people that I work with where, sometimes you'll work with someone and I mean, look, Disney resorts are not cheap. And I understand that and absolutely get it when people are like, hey, I think we're going to stay with family, but can you help us with tickets? And it's like, of course. And what you start to realize about so many of the people that reach out is they really are just looking for some help. And so you become that person to try to help them in whatever way makes the most sense. There have been people where I've said, look, I can't book this for you, but this is the route that I think you should go for what you're looking for. And I think that's the nice thing about at least the way I work with my clients is I'm not thinking about commissions. To be honest, like I said, because I have another job that I actually use to live off of, I don't worry about this stuff. This is mostly just money that I save or use to travel one day when we can. Um, so I think, it's nice kind of how it works out for me because I feel like I really can focus on like rather than some people trying to push like a certain resort or more stays. I'm really just trying to focus on like what's the best for you. um but yeah, it's really just thinking about like what makes sense for your clients' needs.
And then you mentioned offsite hotels briefly. So it sounds like you can book those, but they probably aren't commissionable. Is that the deal?
I can book them. They are commissionable. The reason why I sometimes get nervous about non-Disney resorts, we call them good neighbor resorts, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. So the packaging works different for those. So sometimes you think you have tickets, but they're not on your Magic Band. You have to actually go to maybe a ticket booth to actually pick them up, which is not ideal. Or you have to work with the resort concierge to complete something. Like they just all of those good neighbor hotels work so differently, and they're just not as good as Disney as what they do. So sometimes like I just worry when I book a non-Disney resort for clients, it's just hard to know exactly what the experience will be because those resorts are changing all the time and we don't get information often from them directly about major changes that impact things. A good example is the Swan and Dolphin Resort. Um, these are resorts that are on Disney property. The cool thing about them used to be not only their location, but you are a part of the official Disney bus transportation system. And so that's something that I used to, like, as I'm working with clients, I would promote that. I'd be like, yeah, it's so great. You're getting a deluxe resort for a better price, but you're still part of the transportation system. Well, that changed recently, and we were kind of the last to find out, it felt like. And so, like that was kind of a little bit of an example of, sometimes with these other hotels that aren't Disney, things change just so quickly, and it's just hard to keep account of that and let your client know.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But so that sounds really awesome, where at least with you, it sounds almost limitless, where you could book an on-site hotel, an off-site hotel, tickets, no tickets, dining plan, no
Yep,
dining plan, like however you want to customize it. Sounds like it's an
that's right.
option. Wow,
That's
that's really
right.
cool. I would have thought a lot of those answers would have been a no, we don't do that.
Yeah, and I will say this is where again there's a lot of things that travel agents can technically do. Like if you told me I want to go to Mexico, I could technically book that for you also. Do you know what I mean? So it really kind of comes down to that travel agent and what they're willing to do. And I will say you will find it varies. I think that's what's so great about the agency that I work with is we're really client focused. And the way you can tell if you go to a travel agency's contact form, so ours at the Vacationeer is very open-ended. We don't ask for what dates do you want to travel, where do you want to stay, all these we don't ask you 21 questions to be able to hit submit, but a lot do. And the reason why they do that is so that they don't have to kind of have that personal consultation with you. And instead they can just send you in an email, hey, here's the pricing. Let me know if you want to book.
Hmm,
That's how a lot of them work. Ours is very different. And we try to really give that white glove service.
that's awesome. So going on with the same theme, I guess, it sounds like hotels are no problem. But what about Disney Vacation Club? Because that's points now, not cash. And so either my own points or if I'm someone who rented points, is that a reservation I can transfer over to you or can you help with that, etc.?
So what I will say is, so Disney Vacation Club, traditionally, no. There's really, because usually if you're not a DVC person and let's say you're trying to rent points to be able to stay somewhere, that's usually done through like other third party websites that aren't even technically affiliated with Disney. So what I will say is no, typically if someone wants to go that route, I point them towards a couple of websites that can help. And then I say, let me know if you want help with tickets or dining or anything else. What I will say is sometimes you're speaking with a family and especially like larger families, and in speaking with them, you can just tell, like, you guys should really look into running DVC points to try to stay at, just because oftentimes it's so much more affordable to stay at some of the deluxe resorts. So if your heart is set on, the Riviera, and you've got a party of 5 or 6, in my mind, I'm like, those are $1,000 a night rooms if you go through me, but you might be able to get a better price if you go this other route. So sometimes you are referring people to those other routes, even though there's really nothing I can book for them, just because I think at the end of the day, you want the people who are heading to Disney to have a great trip. And if I try to book something that's just not the right fit, or it's going to cost too much, it's going to make them uncomfortable, that they're not going to be happy with that. And so ultimately, that's the goal, however it works out.
Okay, so DVC stay on points is a no, but if I
Mhm.
wanted to book it cash for some reason, you could help with that.
Potentially. Typically with DVC, it's just kind of such an entirely separate entity, that I think you'd be very rare to find a travel agent who would recommend working with them. I think there are just other routes that make more sense and make for a better experience, better guest experience.
That makes sense. All right, so those are my main questions. It really sounds like there's not really any disadvantages to working with a Disney travel agent. Can you think of any? Like, is there anything you want to point out where maybe this isn't the
Yeah.
best if you're this kind of personality or you're this far along in the process or whatever?
I would say there's a couple of things that stand out. So the first thing I will say is, get a sense early on for what type of travel agent you're working with. Are they someone who's really going to help you figure out what's the right resort for you? What are some good dining options? What should your days in the park look like, if that's what you think you need? If you're looking for someone to just book a trip, I feel like it's about 50-50. Half the travel agents out there really just want to book your trip, and they'll reach out again when it's time to make your final payment. And that's about it. But if you know you need more than that, get a feel for the type of travel agent you're working with. Understand upfront what all they're going to do for you, because I will tell you, a lot of the travel agencies do not book the advanced dining reservations or the fast passes. And if that's a place where you feel like you need help, you just want to make sure you know that ahead of time. Because I think the first few times I ever booked with a travel agent before I became one myself, I didn't realize that. And I was definitely working with someone who really just wanted to take my money and book my package and never talk to me again. Which maybe that's some people's preference, but I was really looking for help at that point on a couple of things I wanted to do. And he just never even got back about that. So the first thing I will say is, get to know what your travel agent will and will not do for you, and make sure that will fit your needs. Because half the clients that I have right now would not do well with that type of travel agent that's just going to book a package. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, the things that help me is if you give me a little bit of information. And like, I was just looking at an email this morning where, like, she wanted to book a trip for her honeymoon, and she told me when she was getting married, and literally that's it. And so help me help you. And I would say the things that are really helpful, people don't like to talk money, even when it comes to trips like these. But if you can give me a budget that's comfortable, then I can give you options that make sense for that. But if you don't do that, and you say, I want all of these other things that make me think, oh, wow, this person wants a deluxe or a moderate, but really, you haven't budgeted for that, then I'm going to send over pricing that feels scary. Because it can get scary pretty quickly with Disney. I will say that. So I would just say, I think a lot of people, when they reach out to travel agents, they want to go to Disney, and that's really all they know. And I mean, you and I know Disney is, especially Disney World, it is massive. I think someone told me once, it's literally the size of New York City. And so it's just a lot to try to navigate on your own. It can get overwhelming quickly. But the ways you can help your travel agent help you, if you have a budget, if you have some type of room preference, any of those things, even just a time frame, that helps us a lot to help you. If you are someone who's a major planner, I think the thing I would say then is, it travel agents love when you reach out and you're like, hey, I want to do a 5-day ticket package from this date to this date at this resort. What's the pricing? And every now and then you'll get those. We love to book those. And the benefit, even to someone like that, of doing it is, you're supporting someone's small business, because we are, independent contractors. So, this is like my little business. So you're supporting someone's small business. They can reach out and they can let you know, hey, this offer just came on the table. Let me go ahead and do the work of calling Disney to get it applied to your package, and then you'll be refunded for the difference, if that's how it works out. They can let you know of important, closures, just news that will impact your trip. And anyone who's paying attention to Disney World right now knows things are changing literally every day. So even if you're a planner, but you're not someone who necessarily is getting the alerts on your phone from all the Disney websites like I am, you can be the first to know, oh my gosh, I just opened up reservations for Space 220. I can grab those for you. So it can't hurt. It's still a situation where you want to know the type of travel agent that you're working with. That's really, I would say, the biggest thing for almost anyone. Know what you need and know what that travel agent can do for you.
That's awesome. That makes so much sense. And it sounds like you would be a safe bet for a person who's definitely going to go that extra mile for you. So,
Yes.
do you want to plug your contact again for everyone to have?
Yeah. So as you, hopefully you guys can tell, I love working with people to help you figure out and plan a great Disney trip. And whether you just have questions, whether you're just exploring, the cool thing about me is I'm not pushy, because I get it, and whenever you're ready, I'm here. But the best way to reach me is just through my email. I live next to my phone, so if you send me an email, I will see it quickly. And it's just Camila@vacationeer.com. So feel free to get in touch with me that way. And then the other thing is, if you just want to see, some fun Disney takes, my Twitter is Disney Itinerary. And yeah, those are probably the two best ways. And, whether you're thinking about a trip for next year, for 2022, I'm already having people reach out about 2022, believe it or not.
Wow.
I'm happy to answer any questions, send pricing, just whatever I can do to help.
That's awesome. So thank you again so much for your time. So everyone, definitely go
Yes.
give her a follow on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you can find me also at Pixie Does PhD. I think this was one of the most valuable sessions of my life compared to all of the Googling I've done about what the heck is all this Disney travel agent stuff. So give this video a like if you appreciated it, and please consider subscribing to the channel. And otherwise, we will see you next time at Pixie Does PhD.